Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. So tonight's going to be a really, really special show. Jason and I have been really excited when we had the opportunity to do this pick and who we would have on as a guest. You're going to find out more than you probably never knew about. So tonight's going to be a really interesting perspective on everything that Mr. Karlovitch has to kind of offer and let everybody know. So we've got Adam Parker, Jeffrey Karlovitch. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining. We got the infamous Maverick, Mr. Mash and Drum himself. Thank you so much for being part of this. Obviously, it's going to be a really fun night, and we're really excited to share this stuff with you guys. It's our first Japanese whiskey pick. I mean, it may be our only one, but it's like being in the World Series of Japanese whiskey. We just went right to the top and got the greatest of the greatest. So I think
you really have to mention the World Series, dude. Really?
Sorry, I know. You
really have to mention. Yeah,
I know.
I'm a Mets fan, and I hate everybody else.
I'm a Mets fan.
I'm a Mets.
Jets, Nets. So
Jeffrey, you're a Mets, Jets, Nets guy?
Yeah, I'm an Nets guy. And it's just a world of punishment. So,
yeah,
Jeffrey, we just need to drink some whiskey and just have a hug somewhere because we need it.
Well, that's the reason why I drink.
I was gonna say I think you found your.
That's the reason why I drink.
You found your poison to ease up all the pain of being fans of all of those sports teams.
Yeah, real quick, Adam, before you turn your mic back on, close the YouTube video that's running in the background because you're getting all the feedback.
Yeah, I was just going to mention it. So, all right, so let's do this. Going. So before we get going, what I would love for you, Jeffrey, to kind of go over a little bit is just kind of share, I guess, for a few minutes, a little bit of your background, kind of how you got in the industry, and just kind of give everybody a little perspective on why we're here tonight and what it is that you kind of do.
Well, listen, my career started. I don't have any lineage, so my father's father wasn't a blender. I was just basically a whiskey nerd. I started drinking when I was quite young because it was the only thing my father never locked up. So, if I wanted to drink, it was a whiskey. And I still remember the day when I drank a bottle of Glenfiddich, my father's bottle. It's a green bottle, as you probably know. And with my friends, with a bunch of soda. And then I filled it with water and food coloring. And about 2 days later, I heard my father yelling and screaming and going up the stairs. And my older brother got the biggest beatdown of his life. So that's kind of like, so I've always had an affinity for whiskey, always loved whiskey. And then I was very fortunate to work with a bunch of different companies. Our founder of Kaiyo, one of our founders is Robert Leon from Moët Hennessy. So I had a chance to work with him there. I bumped around various different houses. We mentioned before, Boonhaven, Deanston, Toby Morey, Lachik. I worked with Appleton, and I worked with Angostura. And then I went and I worked with, Chichibu, with Kashi and EY. I worked with Kelt Cognac, and I worked with Hein Cognac. So I worked with various different houses and different aspects.
So he has the worst pedigree possible.
Yeah. So, but it started as a journey because I just wanted to know everything and I wanted to learn everything. And I realized quite young that I had a palate and I had a nose and I could pick out flavors. And I people call me Rain Man with barrels because I'll have 100 barrels in front of me and I'll sample all of them. And then I'll say, well, this one, and this one has this flavor. And I don't know why. And when I do blends, they just normally come to me. And I've had some really great teachers and people that have kind of steered me in the right direction in my career that have been very big influences. But a lot of it's been mostly self-taught. And when it was funny how Kaiyo came about, it was a misconception that Kaiyo, I started out to make Kaiyo as a Japanese whiskey. Kaiyo was never supposed to be a Japanese whiskey. I just wanted to use the best ingredients in the world, and it just happened to be Japanese. You know, so that's where we kind of fell in. Like I thought the distillate was the best in the world. I wanted to take the best maturation techniques that I've learned over the years, and then I also wanted to do the best barrels in the world. So Kaiyo is kind of a journey through my career, let alone just the brand. So, you know, I've been in this whiskey industry for over 20 years. I was younger, much thinner, and had a lot more hair when I first started. But you know, it's been wonderful. From the Scotch whiskey world, being a keeper of the Quake, you know, to we have a chateau in France. I'm working with different cognacs, so I've kind of seen the entire world, entire industry, with the good and the bad. You know, everything. There's always like, wow, the industry's changed so much over the time, but what the essence of it hasn't, and the essence is just people enjoying a dram together. And whiskey is one of those things that brings people together, and people talk about it, and that's the beauty of it. You know, I always say, like, everyone says, well, what's the favorite blend you ever made? I always say the next one, because I never want it to end, and I don't want to make the perfect whiskey, because then there's nothing. Then my journey kind of stops, you know. And as a blender, I have a different view, a different aspect. You know, I've blended for all the big houses, and you know, it was always about making things consistent. And I basically said, like, to me, making things consistent is not a true representation of a blender, in my point of view. I think every time you open up a bottle of Kaiyo, wherever you open up a bottle of one of my whiskeys, it should be better than the last one you opened. I'm not saying I can make the blend better every time, but if I strive to make it better every time, it will be better in the long term.
And I got to tell you, one of my favorite, most annoying things about Jeff is when we do an event, Jeff will sign a bottle, but only if you have two.
Only if you have two.
Only if you got two. One to sign, one to drink.
One to drink. You know, I think, you know, I mean, we're in my office. I have an office in Lambertville, New Jersey. So everybody says, like, well, Jeff, where do you live? I always say United C2A, because I'm always on the plane. If I'm not in Japan, I'm in France. If I'm not France, I'm in Liverpool. If I'm not here, if I'm not there, I'm here. But you know, upstairs, you know, I've dedicated my life and half my liver to this pursuit of whiskey. Like upstairs, there's a little over 6,000 bottles of single malt Scotch, probably about 500 bottles of Japanese whiskey, about 500 bottles of bourbon. You know, and that's just my my own collection, just because I want to try everything and I want to see what everything does. So I think me collecting, me trying everything and wanting to learn everything has kind of brought me to the point where we are now with Kaiyo. You know, so, you know, I'm very proud of what Kaiyo's accomplished in a short time, but I always say, you know, I was very fortunate to have, you know, two people, Robert Leon and a guy named Eric Horowitz, you know, because everybody needs a money guy.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not gonna lie. So if they're watching, thank you very much, and I muchly appreciate it. You know, but they believed in me before Japanese whiskey took off, or people thought it was going to be a thing. They said, Jeff, what do we invest in? And I said, I want to invest in New Make Spirit distillate from
Jeff,
Japan.
Could you say a little bit about when Kaiyo started? Like,
so Kaiyo started over 14 years ago. You know, and I did a lot of test studies and how Mizunara. We've been working with Mizunara before really anybody thought it was even fashionable or even really knew it was a viable option. We were the ones that worked with Ariake to get, you know, Mizunara barrels actually made. So we were kind of on the forefront of this Mizunara boom. I always say that we were the original Mizunara. We are the original. And one of the kind of the unique things, and I'll get into the wood in a little bit. You know, I apologize if I'm just blabbering on.
No, it's great. This is great. You know,
no, this is great info, because I think Mizunara has, you know, it's an expensive wood. Obviously, I know a little bit about, you know, just doing some research with Mizunara, and you know, they have to be dry aged for what, like 5-6 years, like something like crazy, right?
You're basically to get a true Mizunara, it has to come from north part of Japan. It can't be from anywhere else.
And that's Hokkaido. Is that Hokkaido? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, what the barrels or the wood the tree needs to be almost about 200 years old so you can get proper staves. There are some that are a little bit younger that you can, depending on how they grew. But the tree almost has to be about 200 years old because it looks like a corkscrew. So to get proper staves, it has to have a long life. And one of the things with, everything you read about Mizunara mostly came from us. I started working with Mizunara as a test study. So there was a big study about the Scotch whiskey industry was worried that if American bourbon decided to you'd be able to use a barrel more than once, what would that do to the flavor profile of the Scotch whiskey industry? So we were looking at other different woods and experimenting with other woods. It was, Swedish oak, Hungarian oak, which I quite like a lot. And then there was, Japanese oak, French oak. So when we started working with Mizunara, I actually thought it was one of the best aging vessels to work with in terms of flavor profile, because you get the vanilla and the honey notes, but you also get the spicy and the kind of chocolate sandalwood notes that you'll find from Spanish oak, but without the wine characteristic to it. So I always thought it was the best of both worlds combined in a very complex way, And so when you like everything, like with Kaiyo, with our signature and our cask strength, we're the only ones that are full term. So so basically, this is our liquid. So our liquid, this is our new mixed spirit that we bottled. It's not for sale, but we can send you a bunch of bottles. I mean, I think I bottled like 20,000 of them. Just to have, but this is our new mixed spirit. It's distilled at 6. This is at 64%. But this is what Kaiyo is. Kaiyo starts like this, and then the barrels are quite interesting because everybody says they're very difficult to work with, and that's true. Like the normal angel share in the world is 3%, and we have 3% in all our barrels normally that aren't Mizunara, but Mizunara barrels are about 7%.
Why so high?
Well, because 3% goes to heaven and 4% goes to hell. Because every barrel leaks. It's just because the way it's made. So when they're cutting the wood, they're splitting the wood. So it's not really, you can go by a grain with Mizunara, and it lacks oil enzymes. So you talk about like American oak, it's tons of oil enzymes to really seal the barrel. If you ever go to like Home Depot and you go to the redwood section and you're or red oak and you just put your finger, you can almost feel it. Mizunara, it's just dry. It's completely dry. So it lacks oil to actually seal the barrel inside. And so a lot of times you'll have more heavily you'll char a Mizunara, the better you are about plugging the barrels. But I don't really kind of like that flavor profile. So I like a 2.5. So I'm okay with the leakage because it'll eventually stop and we'll kind of turn the barrels till we get.
And one of the things that Jeff has neglected to mention that is very significant about Kaiyo is part of our maturation process. The fact that we are one of the few spirit companies in the world that ocean matures our spirits.
Yes. So when I said what Kaiyo kind of started with my career, I'm the blender for Kelt Cognac. I was the blender for Kelt way back when, but they fired me. But now.
But it's cool. He came back and fired them, so it's fine.
Yeah. So now I own Kelt, which is quite exciting. But how Kelt did this ocean maturation, and I actually thought it was a bunch of BS. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like, okay, every barrel's different. You're gonna put it on a ship. It's gonna do something to it, but does it really like this magic thing? Because I don't like anything that accelerates aging. I don't like wood chips. I don't like putting extra staves and stuff. I don't like anything that's accelerating. And I'll understand why wood chips don't work, because you're talking about different sugars and pulling out different sugars. So if you do like I'm going on a tangent, so I do apologize. If you're talking about a wood, and you're talking about like a one toast or one char, you're basically pulling around 6 to 7 sugars. If you go about 2 toast, or 2 char rather, you're pulling around 12 to 14. Now, if you do, a 3 char, you're pulling almost about 20 to 24 different sugars. And if you do a 4 char, you're basically looking around about 5 sugars. So now imagine, so that's the surface that you're burning away to pull those sugars out. Now imagine if you're wood chipping and you're burning it all and you don't have really control of it, and you throw that into, all into the barrel. It's kind of like a marriage, man. Like sometimes too much is too much, and there's too many sugars, so it's not going to balance. So
and too much is usually too much.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times, like when you look at different barrels, a lot of people will do, especially micro distilleries. If I can make a ploy out to them, when you're looking at wood, wood, truly understand the barrel and the staves that you're actually picking. Go pick them yourself at the barrel manufacturer. You want to know the oxygen level that's coming in and out of the staves, and especially the heads. And then so you have to really understand what you're looking for on a barrel. And please look at different toast levels and char levels. So the number one barrel that's sold in the United States is a 2 toast and a 3 char. And that's you can pull out the most color, the most flavor, but I think it's the 2 things that actually don't work together in a barrel. If they did a 2-2 or 1-3 or 0-3 or 0-4, so I think a lot of micro distilleries kind of taste similar because of the barrels that they actually choose. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, I just went on a tangent. I do apologize.
No. I mean, I think it's interesting. I'm glad you kind of touched on the barrel part of it, because I think, frankly, so many people always want to talk about, what the mash bill is and this and that. And that's something that so many people focus on. But I mean, the wood part of it, with all of these different variances and different way toasts and chars and all that, it's maybe the largest impact that it has on a whiskey and why they taste the way they do.
It is the largest impact. So understanding the wood is the most important, and understanding different woods. And I always say innovation is the death of whiskey. And I say that, and we innovate a lot. We do a lot of innovative things here at Kaiyo and LHK. But I always say, make a great whiskey first and then innovate. Don't do it. Don't experiment to hide flaws. Figure out why those flaws are there, and then fix them. And then once that's there, then you can start experimenting, and then you can start doing different things and different finishes and different barrels. Some of the big houses are really good for a reason, because they've had trial and error for years and years and years. But going back to the ocean maturation, when I was with Kelt, when I thought it was BS, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna blend all the cognac the same. So it's all the same, and it's going to go on its ocean maturation. And then, so it goes on its ocean maturation. And what came back, I was completely floored. I'm not saying every barrel was amazingly better. About 30% were so exceptional, 50% were better, and about 20% were not as good. And it's kind of funny. They're almost in the same exact location of the barrels that weren't as good. Now, so we've actually just put drums in those areas, and we actually don't put whiskey in those areas anymore, or cognac. But how that really impacts Kaiyo, when I was working with Mizunara gives a lot of flavor for the first 2-3 years of its life. And about 2.5-3 years, it kind of goes dormant. It's hard to tell a difference between a 3-year-old Mizunara and a 6-year-old Mizunara. So I said, if we did this ocean maturation, would it regurate the spirit? Would it regurate the wood? And we will see the maturation process start again. And what we found out, it did. So hence why it's so important to Kaiyo. So that's why Kaiyo, we came up with the name, because Kaiyo means ocean. So without that ocean maturation, we thought, the brand would be very difficult, and different flavor profiles would be difficult that we'd be looking to pull out. I will tell you, my job is much more difficult now with all the shipping issues, because, it was always a 3-month sea voyage, like Gilligan's Island, you know what I mean? Like, and now all of a sudden I'm at 6 months, and I'm like, hey, so the flavor profile has changed. So we're adapting to that, as things go. And how things are developing, but everything, like with a brand, and I always say, never know everything. You can learn from everybody. You can, as long as you're open. And I've had some of the best experiences in my life just drinking with people. And I know, there was one point I was with, I was in New York City. I'll give you an example. I was in New York City, and I was at a table, if you like him or not, but I was at a table with Bill Clinton, former president. Then I got on a plane and I flew to Jamaica. And that night, a buddy that I knew took me onto the mountains of Jamaica where they're making moonshine. In one day, I've had so it's about the journey and learning. And I learned so much the guy that was making moonshine that I did at the luncheon. So as long as you're open and you're okay about the journey and you live and love the journey, that's what it's all about. So I do apologize. I'm just kind of like
I just gotta say thanks. It's such a great joy to work with Jeff. I've heard that story at least twice. Each time, it's never cooler than the first time I heard it, and it's always cooler every single time I hear it. Yeah. Jeff is such a joy to work with, and it's so rare to be talking with probably the worldwide leader in Mizunara maturation. So
yeah, it's interesting from my standpoint, because I would be the first to admit it's not something that I've had a lot of and that I understand or know a lot about. So for me, just like learning that part and listening to you kind of discuss that is kind of, it's interesting, and it's fun to learn some different things. So
yeah, I mean the bourbon industry created Kaiyo, because if they didn't have that rule, I would have never experienced Mizunara Oak. I would have never had that opportunity. So that's what kind of drove my career was legislation, and what ifs. So I was doing risk assessment for companies and saying, okay, well, if this happened, is there an alternative? And I was like, well, it's not really an alternative, but we can make a damn good whiskey out of it. So,
well, that's good.
I mean, I've personally had some, some Mizunara Oak experience with I drink a lot more single malts and Scotch than Scott does. So I've had a few releases of Mizunara just to kind of get my palate acclimated to it. There's a couple of bourbon, or I should say just American whiskey companies like Barrel Craft Spirits. They've used Mizunara in some of their releases as well as some other folks that have used it. But I think to kind of get the background on what we're tasting from Jeff and, the true kind of nature of Mizunara, what it does, how it maturing it on a ship, how that kind of accelerates, not really accelerates, but kind of gets to that sweet spot.
Gives it new life.
Yeah, gives it new life, like you said. So
how long were you roughly aging it on the boats or ships?
Well, we only do 3 months. We only do 3 months sea voyage. But it has to go hot, then cold, hot, and then cold. Because everything with maturation, and you need both. You need hot, cold, damp. Hot, cold, damp. So so you always have to look at that. So if we wanted to say, oh, well, we're gonna take our Mizunara and we're gonna sail around the Caribbean. If you're there for a day, it's long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to look at the routes that it's taking, and we're very specific. So you have to actually go west before you go east. Because if you do that, it's almost undrinkable. So
Jeff, where are you from originally?
I was born and raised in good old New Jersey.
That's what I figured. I heard it. I heard. So, I know your Mets. I know your Mets, Jets, Nets. You have that. Even though you've had a painful sports life like me, I trust you more than anything now. So
I was I lived in Sayreville for several years.
Oh, right there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott's lying. He was raised in Canada. I'm only kidding.
Don't listen to this guy. Yeah, well, all over. Hey, can we? So I guess let's do this. So with the Kaiyo we have in front of us,
yes.
Can you kind of give us a little description of what it is, and then one other thing, in what order? Because I saw there's a couple different things. Is there a particular order of barrels, or how you want us to be tasting these?
You know what? I think we go right into the barrel tasting, and then I think we taste the signature and we taste the cask strength.
Okay. So we have our barrel picks. So we have barrel 1108.
Mm-hmm.
You do have a very interesting barrel that was not done on purpose.
Sure you guys had something weird.
So you do have something weird. We have 3799.
Okay.
And then we have 5599.
Okay.
Now with the numbers, you don't have to be rocket science to figure out the lower number, the older that whiskey is. To be fair, but older doesn't mean better. Like I'll tell you. I mean, and everybody says like the older whiskeys, like I have this 30-year-old, 40-year-old. I personally like my sweet spot between distilleries, like on the Scotch whiskey side and the Japanese whiskey side, is that 14 to 18 range, because I can still taste the nuances of the distillery, and I can also taste the wood influence. When it gets older than that, it's not saying it's a bad whiskey. It's just older whiskey, and you start losing the charm of what made that from that distillery.
On average, how old are the whiskeys we're tasting right now?
The whiskeys that you're going to have here are from 10 to 8 years old.
Okay.
Okay. So this is 100% aged in Mizunara. But one of the things too, like when we talk about Mizunara and what makes Mizunara special, which really excites me, it's not just the flavor profile that you get from, like when you talk about like a American oak barrel, you use it once, a lot of flavor, twice, which would be your first fill, then your second fill, and then your third fill. It's like a tea bag. You just loses strength. Now Mizunara is actually the opposite. You get tons of flavor with sandalwood and different notes, like spicy notes from your first run. And then after that, you get these beautiful tropical, like coconut notes that you would normally find in whiskeys that were 18 to 25 years old. So it's really interesting, the flavor profile you get from Mizunara on the second fill compared to the first fill. They're almost completely different whiskey. The problem with our issue is we're a first fill whiskey house. We are a second fill whiskey house because these barrels are so expensive. I'm gonna use them up until I can't plug up the leaks.
And we're gonna be
To be fair, but it's really interesting to see the flavor profile of not Kaiyo today, Kaiyo in the future. So I think Kaiyo, his future in 5 to 10 years, I think people will start talking about our brand as one of the best in the world.
Well, it's very interesting because as you look at the colors of these, they all vary. It's like almost like, I mean, it's like light, medium, and then darker, and based on the numbers, the lower the number, like you would expect with it being older, that naturally you would think there would be more color in the older one, but not necessarily.
Everything that we do is unchill filter, naturally colored. So we don't color anything. We don't add any. We don't chill filter it. So for people that don't know what chill filtering is basically making a bottle look pretty on the shelf. So when it gets cold, it's crystal clear. And chill filtering is like pulling those fatty acids out, which I think is pulling flavor out of the whiskey.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a little bit different. That's the one thing that we're a little bit different with the Japanese. A lot of Japanese will chill filter all their whiskeys. We do not. So we'll keep the flavor in there. But Japanese whiskey is always about balance and harmony. And you always want balance and harmony throughout the entire process. So these are all 56%. So these are big and bold, but they're still very approachable and very drinkable.
All right. So I'm guessing with the signature, you just want us to kind of, you just kind of want us to taste kind of the quintessential expression of what Kaiyo is.
Kaiyo is.
Okay.
Yep. So,
right.
and what Kaiyo is, we're not, every time you see Mizunara on a label, it's a finish. We are the only ones that are true 100%. There are others that are coming out, but we are the only true 100% aged Mizunara. So it doesn't touch any other wood except Mizunara. And that's kind of our calling card. And that's why I came out with the cask strength. I wanted people to taste what that wood is like.
And nobody was doing that before you started doing that, Jeff.
No.
Are we sorry about that? Are we tasting the signature first?
We can do it in any order you want.
Well, it is. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm going to follow. I guess whatever order you want.
I think what we should do is I think we should save the signature for last.
Okay.
Save the signature for last. Okay.
And the reason for that, I want you to see the maturation of the brand. These are different casks. Then we can show you what the cask strength is, and then we can show you what the signature is.
So should we go like in barrel order as far as like 1108, 37, 99 to 55?
You know what? I think we do the cask strength first.
Okay, fair enough. All
right. So this is the regular cask strength.
Regular cask strength.
All right.
Okay.
And something that Jeff has neglected to mention because it's part of his baby is how much of this spirit is malted barley, Jeff?
This is 100% malted barley.
And how rare is that in Japan currently?
Well, it's quite rare in Japan these days.
Yeah, it's exceptionally rare.
So everything that we like, we don't have big age statements on our whiskey. And we're, like, listen, we started basically before most everybody else did, besides the Yamazaki and Nika, Chichibu, Akashi, but we've been there for a long time, and we're just now able to put a 10-year-old on our label. So because we're 100% distilled in Japan.
Huh. Boy, it's for me, and I guess I'm gonna speak from the perspective of, again, not drinking much Scotch, and like malted barley for me, I feel like I'm sensitive to it. Like I can really, it's like very aromatic to me. And like for me, like this doesn't come across nearly like a Scotch does. And I'm guessing that probably has a lot to do with the Mizunara probably.
Well, it has to do with the Mizunara, but it also has to do with the distillation. Like I always say, like people start talking about, the distillation process. There's everybody, the best way to describe it, if you have Scotch whiskey on one side and you have Irish whiskey on the other side, you have, Japanese is in between. And the reason why it's in between, well, the Scotch will distill twice. The Irish will normally distill 3 times. So you have so Scotch is very much more complex, and holds up with age well, while Irish is more balanced and easier to drink at a younger age. So the Scots will say they did it right the second time. The Irish will say the Scots were too cheap to do a third time. So basically,
I have no idea why they fight all the time.
Yeah. So when you start talking about Japanese whiskey, they follow a Scottish model, but there are certain things that are a little bit different. And one of the things is like with your malted barley. So basically, when you're pulling your sugars, so out of your grist, okay.
Yeah.
The first about 5 minutes is cloudy. The Scotch will use everything. The Japanese will not do that because they think it's unpure. So when you start talking about when it's condensing, the Scotch and Irish are using every temperature that's coming off the burn, so the temperature varies, but the Japanese will cool it to a certain temperature before it condenses. So they're much more controlled in their environment of this distillation. So hence why it's kind of the best of both worlds. They've taken what the Scotch have done, but made it cleaner, and more precise. And there's a couple of distilleries in the world that follow that model. Similar, like we work with High Coast, and High Coast follows that model in Sweden. But any event, so I'm sorry, I'm on another tangent.
Yeah, it's what it smells. It smells like it would be very thick, and like it's got this nice like tropical note to it. I love that. It's like soft but dense at the same time, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I get that sandalwood immediately, and it's something I don't pick up very often in whiskey, honestly. But man, when you say sandalwood, and I'm also getting something very, very savory on the nose as well.
You'll actually get salt.
Yeah,
that's what it really is. Yeah,
and that actually has to do with not the barrel, but mostly the ocean maturation.
Yeah, it's like a brininess or something. Yeah,
totally.
But you also get that like almost like dried cranberries as well. You get like dried fruits on the back end. So that's one of the beauty things. But it was interesting when you get the tropical notes. The tropicals there, but they're subtle. But they're there when the glass sits for a while. So everybody says like, they tell me like, oh, Jeff, how should I drink my whiskey, and all this other stuff. And I'm very particular how you should drink your whiskey. I always say drink it however you freaking like it.
Just drink it.
I always say don't let a whiskey expert tell you how to drink your whiskey. But I'll tell you the differences. If you add water to it, it'll open up the bouquet, so you get more of a nose and more of a sensation that way. If you add ice to it, it'll close the bouquet, and it's just a colder drink. If you add Coke to it, we'll probably never be friends. But that's but drink whiskey however you like it, as long as you're drinking with people that you like, or if the Outlaws come over, hopefully they're not watching this.
The more I sip this, the more tropical it's getting.
That's the same thing for me too. It's like tropical, and there's kind of like I'd say like a light like fruit note, but more of like a dark, like maybe like a light like raspberry or strawberry.
Yep.
There's something that's like a light summer fruit kind of.
On the back end, it's almost like a fresh fruit on the back end, and almost very floral as well. Like you can almost even think it would be like heather, like almost like a Scottish,
Yeah. In the beginning, I was getting that, Jeff. It was reminding me of like some of those, like a Highland Park, like a heathered honey, a little bit of like a citrus note, and then it just kind of ventures into like this tropical, salty, almost pineapple, almost.
Yeah.
Like salty pineapple, if that makes sense.
Yes, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
100%.
So, and that's why we're so different than everyone else with Mizunara, because this is full term Mizunara. So you're trying something that's never touched any other oak, which is really interesting.
Yeah, Hawk, you feel how like viscous this is?
Yeah, it's very like I even smelling it. It smells like dense, viscous. It's mouth coating. It's great. And what I also love is like right at the mid or the back of the palate, this wave of like honey is ridiculous on this thing for me.
Oh yeah, honey for sure. Yep.
Yeah. And that's one of the things. So that's what I love about these barrels, because you'll have a lot of that in spades with American oak and like ex-bourbon barrels, and then Spanish, you won't have any of that, but you'll have that dried fruit, and you'll have some spice notes. So it's basically those best two components kind of put together in a very balanced way.
See, and for me, the brininess is like immediately up front.
Yep.
And then late on the finish.
Yeah.
So
it actually will. So basically, you'll start to salivate. So basically, it'll wet your palate, and then you'll start to salivate.
Yeah.
It's going to sound funny, and it's not because it's Japanese, Mizunara oak. But I'm getting, if you've ever been to like a really high-end sushi bar or something like that, and you get like this, like you get like the fresh brewed soy sauce.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right? That comes off because it's like a salty, savory, like right up front, especially on the nose. And then as you sit, man, it gets into like this honey, heather, and this tropical. That really takes you for a nice little ride. I've had like, I feel like I've had whiskeys that have had one or two of these notes separately, but not together like this, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's a very compartmental like whiskey. Like you get all these different like compartments of this whiskey, like but
none of them dominate.
No. It's really well balanced. Yeah.
So, and that's the beauty. Like when you're trying to like, listen, I'm a Jersey boy trying to make Japanese whiskey, man. I'll be completely honest with you. But you have to pay homage to it, and it's always about balance and harmony. And and one of the things I love about Kaiyo is there was a mess up at I won't get too much in details, but there was a mess up at the bottling hall, and I tried it, and I didn't like the whiskey, and it cost the company almost $200,000 because I said we can't do it. So everything that you do and everything that we put that has the Kaiyo name on it, it has to. If I don't like it and I don't love it, we won't put it out. Period.
You're just a Jersey boy. He's like, I do things. I go to Jersey. I'm a Met fan, and I make friggin' I make hitter Irish whiskey, among other things. That's why Jeff is the best.
Hefe.
Hey, listen, the Jets beat the good old Packers in Lambeau Field this week.
Jeffrey, I know you're freaking out about the Jets right now.
Oh my god! I can't tell you.
I know.
I don't even know how to feel. I don't even know how to feel.
You haven't felt this in a long time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Dolphins fan. So for us to go in there and lose to the Jets, needless to say, I was very disappointed. So
listen, I still think someone's going to pinch me and wake me up.
Yeah, and the Giants are playing well too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk it?
I know. Yeah, I would think. I mean,
all right. Well, I'm very impressed with this first Scotch Ranked offering.
That's crazy. That's crazy good right there.
The patrons that are watching, you guys are gonna go bananas for this shit. It's really good. So I can't wait to taste these. Now, these are all single barrels, Jeff.
So these
right?
are all single barrels.
So none of these are.
When you talk about single barrels, so these are a little bit different.
Okay.
So the yields are never really high on our single barrels, and so we'll take a huge Mizunara barrel. Okay, that's around 450 liters. Okay, and then we have Mizunara barrels that are 200 liters. So I'll take that and I'll divide that, but I won't fill it 100%. You know, like when you're talking about like making wine, you know, especially like when you're talking about like why French oak is so great for wine, and I hate it with whiskey, even though I have a French oak whiskey, which I love. You know, you basically want to starve the wine of oxygen, and there's hardly any oxygen that comes through to the wine. Now, whiskey, you want the opposite. You want oxygen to play into the spirit. You know, so we fill all these barrels around 50% to get as much influence of the oak and the wood in that barrel as possible.
Nice.
So the whiskey, so the one should we start at 1108?
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right.
So this is a little bit higher in strength. So the cask strength is at 56 or 53%. And it's just the way it comes back, and the blend works out to around that, you know. And then all these are 56.
See, now for me, this is like it's very briny. Like that's the first thing I picked up was the brine, or it's almost like you dump this one actually in the water.
This one's completely. This one is mostly in the mid palate.
Okay.
And a long lingering finish. It's a little tight, and when the first sip, but it just needs to evolve in the glass.
Wow, that's so much different than that. What we just tasted.
Yep. And listen, all these barrels make up that. So to give you kind of some perspective.
All right, so I guess so the difference is the actual cask strength is a blend of other barrels then, correct?
Of other barrels. So the cask strength is a blend of all these different barrels that have different components that I'm putting together.
Okay.
You know, like a chef.
Man, that's
Jeff, you're right. This has a little sneaky finish that kind of, it's like it hits your palate, it coats the palate, and then it kind of goes away. And then I was a little disappointed, and now this like sneaky finish just came back.
It just comes back.
Yep. It kind of comes like it kind of gets you. I call it I always call it the after finish. It's like you think it's done, and then it kind of sneaks up back on you.
See, and for me,
you're like Maverick. You got that little afterburn, man.
That's my nickname. I'm Maverick.
Yeah, it's like a green apple with like a little bit of like a brininess that's there too, with like that nice kind of like woody note to it.
Well, that's what's kind of exceptional about like what Jeff does with our single barrel program, in that there's so much variation from barrel to barrel. As you guys will see, the way that he sub blends them, it's really something.
And one of the things that are kind of unique that what we do at Kaiyo is we're always blending. So when we have our new mixed spirit, I'll blend the new mixed spirit before it goes into the barrel to different lots.
Okay.
And then I'll blend things on a yearly basis to keep things really kind of consistent, but also to make sure that we're always trying to improve the blend and trying to improve the liquid. And getting the most out of the barrels that we're looking for.
This has like a nice like honey candy ginger thing going on this one.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Definitely
really like. It's like, I don't know. It's like it's not as tropical as the one we just had. It's a little bit. It's a little bit darker.
Yep.
Now it has a little peppermint to it.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's definitely like darker, and I don't want to say richer, but it's a darker profile than the first one for sure.
This one, I will tell you, has a much more sea influence than
a much more what?
Sea influence.
For sure.
Yeah.
That salty, that briny note definitely comes through. That sea salt, and it's like a roasted salted coconut too. I'm getting on the back end of that as well.
You could even almost go as far as like a salted pretzel with some chocolate or something. Honestly, I mean, it's kind of that a little bit.
Yeah, I could see the pretzel because I like that.
Yeah, I actually scored myself some more. You know, I'm trying to analyze it. I'm like, but I drank it. I'm like, I need to.
I wish I had a sample of this too, man.
I find myself about like noon every day not being able to do my job because I drank so much whiskey. I just have to go home and take a little nap. So
damn.
Well, I will tell you, I was at a tasting one time, doing a single barrel tasting, and they were all for sale, and I tried them, and one was not for sale.
Yeah. It was.
I'm like,
it was.
I need that for my first
It was so
selection.
bad you had to pull it back, right? Make sure.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, you don't want that one.
No.
Man, I love how this
just.
I love how this just explodes in the back of the palate. It is.
Yeah.
This boom, just like it's like fireworks, pop rocks, everything going off.
It's got a different finish than I would say like an American whiskey does. There's much more like layers to this than there is American whiskey, I would say.
Well, you know what's kind of interesting with with us, like, and you start comparing like like American whiskey or bourbon and what we do, like we're using new barrels. They're using new American oak. While Scotch whiskey is using like first fill bourbon, so, they're using different sherries. We use sherry barrels as well and first fill bourbon barrels as well. But we're kind of toting that line between the two because of the new oak that we use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I mean, it's just boy, there's like it's very like fragrant from like a perfume kind of standpoint.
Yes.
Like the more I nose it, the more of that floral, that heavy floral note comes out in it too.
Actually, yeah, especially like if you keep your nose like high above the glass, it is definitely perfumey. Mm-hmm. And you get down in there and almost get like a burnt toffee note in here as well. I mean, it's the dark flavors mixed with some of the brighter, more floral notes and that sea salt.
Yeah, the floral notes that I get a lot of like lavender.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's one thing I can appreciate about something like this is, when I try to like even stress to other people is taking your time. Like I think at times if you're willing to spend a little bit of time like nosing it, I think it helps as you begin to taste it. Like it just kind of sets things up even more so than just pouring it in a glass, drinking it, and then trying to enjoy it. Like I think you need to, especially with something like this, you need to take your time. Like
you definitely need to take your time. And the first thing I said to you when I first tried it, I'm like, it's a little tight. It needs to open up.
Yeah.
Like it just needed to evolve in the glass. And like, I'm really enjoying this whiskey. But it's different. It's completely different. That's why I wanted you to try the cask strength first.
Yeah.
Because they're so different animals.
Even if
to be honest with you, when the single barrel program that we do, we want you to know you're drinking Kaiyo, but I don't want it to be so close to what we have out there. To me, that makes no sense either. I want it to be something different and really interesting.
Yeah. Boy, like is there it almost even like as you kind of dive into it more, you start to almost pick up this like a light like leather or tobacco note or something like that.
Oh, you definitely get like a spicy note on the back end.
Man.
I love the spice on it. I just like how, going back to like football, it's like a late hit. It's just kind of like I'm gonna call the flag on that play because all of a sudden you think the play's over and then you get hit with all this spice on the back end.
It's over, but you still get hit.
Yeah. Basically.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Man, that's very, very good. Very good. Man. All right.
So the next one, I think we'll do the 3799.
3799. Okay. I don't know. Jeff, I just saw Jeff do this. All right, the next one. So that I don't know what that means, but being
no. You see him talk about whiskey. Dastardly.
Just saying. All right, this one's a little lighter.
Yeah.
It kind of. So this is the one we're going to be trying. It's a little bit lighter than this baby here. So
this one's completely different.
See, now I'm struggling with this one coming off of that one. Like this one was like much bolder. Like this one is like a little more muted. Like I need to spend some time trying to figure out.
Sensitive.
Yeah, give it some time, Hawk. Take it out on a date. Give it a little bit of
time. Like this one you might marry.
This is one you gotta like caress a little bit, swaddle it or something,
So this I get a lot more of that green apple coconut note on this, like right away immediately. That coconut is coming right out of the glass.
This one is completely different. This one is much more tropical.
Yep.
Now I will tell you, this one is second fill Mizunara. It's first fill and second fill.
Oh, interesting.
So this is more of a tropical note feel that you would normally find in older whiskeys that are, 16 to 25 years old.
So I guess like I what I'm struggling with those ages and like the multiple barrels that it's been in, why so light?
Well,
It's so light because it's lighter because it hasn't been in brand new Mizunara for its entire life. It's only been in new Mizunara for roughly around 5 years of its life. And then 4 years it's been in second fill Mizunara.
So coming off of the first one, what was the comparison of that in terms of the aging versus what we're tasting now?
Oh, wow.
Well, so it was developing, but I thought that the second fill Mizunara would give it a layer of sophistication.
Okay.
And like this is 56%, but it tastes like it's 43%.
Yeah, this is way more on the tropical side. You're so
Totally
right.
side.
I mean, it's completely coconut, pineapple,
Yep.
spice.
So this is
like
completely different. So if you want like new Mizunara, the first one all the way, this one is a combination of the both. So
see now, if like for me, I really love the richness and darkness of one, but I can totally appreciate the softness and subtleness of two, because like to me, these would be very different mood sipping whiskeys.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Jeff, real quick, what's the char level on these Mizunara casks again?
Well, we do different toast and char levels. A lot of times we'll do no toast, and about a 2.5 char.
Okay, that's what
Okay.
I thought.
We'll do 0 toast and 4. I don't like to toast Mizunara.
Okay.
Because you're starting to pull out flavors that I really don't like. So I personally don't like. I just like it dry, like dry aged, and then charred. So, and we do anywhere from 2.5 to 4 char. When it gets to 3.5, I'm really not a big fan of, and 1's just too light. So I look for that, that medium, light to medium char on the Mizunara.
See, now what I would have to do is like default to you guys on, for someone who's looking for a particular profile with this. Is someone typically looking for darker and richer, or like kind of softer and more?
If you're looking for a really balanced, easy drinking, cask strength whiskey, this is where it's at. Like if you're looking for quintessential Japanese whiskey, that would hold up with anybody, this is that. This is, to me, is exquisite. The first one, although like it was so different in flavors and profiles, it was so unique. So you have the uniqueness of one, and then the sophistication of the second.
Yeah, the second one here that we're trying, barrel 3799. This, from my experience with Japanese whiskey, this is more along that profile.
Yes,
this is what I'm used to. It's slightly malty, but it's more tropical. It's easy sipping, a little bit of spice on the back, but not very much. It's almost effervescent. There's like a nice little like a bubbliness to it, for lack of a better term. And then it's weird, like you get this tropical flavor, but on the very, very end of this is like that slight hint of like white chocolate on the back end too, which is really nice.
So if you're looking for like a Japanese whiskey, this is everything that you love about Japanese whiskey.
See, because the way like I look at it, like I could have number one with like a nice like ribeye, like it feels like it would hold up, and then 2 would be like what I'd want like as an after dinner kind of whiskey.
Totally. Listen, there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, man. And
I feel like we've had dinner and dessert, so this might be the next one. Might be breakfast. We'll see what happens.
Well, now you guys know what it's like to eat with Jeff. So
it's a really unique like kind of profile. It's just very, very different in terms of what the experience is.
There's also some apricot second in here, kind of sneaking in here too. For sure.
I mean, it's really hard to believe. Like you said, this does not. I mean, this thing drinks like such a low proof. I mean, and it being what is that? 112 proof.
112 proof.
I mean, that's ridiculous. Like that is sneaky.
Again, yeah, it's got a sneaky finish to it. Just like I don't think it's not as much as a smack as the first one, but it is there.
So this one's really interesting. So instead of going to the third, I think we should go back to the first and just take it one sip.
Okay. All right.
Now this one, after you nose this one, you start getting those chocolate notes. You start getting those.
Oh man!
You know what it reminds. You know what the regular Kaiyo cask strength. You know what it reminds me of is 1 and 2 together.
Yes. And
it's got all of the richness of 1, but the softness and sweetness of 2.
And that's the blending process. So I'm using different barrels to blend it together to get, that product.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the rich and the complexity of the first one, honestly.
Yeah, the first one is, like if you're a bourbon drinker, you're one all day long.
Yeah. See, that's for me, like in my mind, like this is like where Jason and I, when we're doing like picks of things, like he does look for things that are different and unique at times. And I've got like a lane that I kind of stay in. And like one, if I was picking so far of the 2, I mean, outside of just the cask strength, which is a delicious whiskey, but man, 1 is that got all that richness and darkness that I love.
If you're like a bourbon drinker, you're gonna love 1. If you're a Japanese whiskey drinker, you're gonna love 2.
Yeah, I can see that.
And this is where I struggle, because what I'd hate to do is like have someone like wanting a Japanese whiskey and then get it and like they're like, well, this is like drinking a bourbon. I didn't come here for.
Listen, I mean, if you open up a bourbon and try it, there's characteristics of what a bourbon would be, but they're so different still.
Yeah, Scott. I mean, I think 1 has the drinking style of like a bourbon, but the flavors are completely different.
Right.
Flavors completely different.
And I would say like that's what makes Kaiyo so magical. Like we have a lot of those really great inherent bourbon characteristics, but then there's this whole other tropical umami flavor profile, this whole other kaleidoscope of flavors that exists only because of the use of Mizunara.
So the next one we should go to is the 55.99.
All right. Here we go.
I know it's a tough job. Somebody's got to do it.
Now this one of all of them is now the darkest of all of them.
Yes.
For any particular reason?
This one had a little heavier char.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
This one had a little heavier char, and this is the youngest. So this is sitting at 8 years old, or 8.5 years old.
I like how you're kind of taking us through the gamut of ages, different char levels, blends, secondary finish, first finish. This is awesome.
Man, that's like so much like vanilla cake. It's
my gosh. What?
But still,
now this one I could smell like salt and cream soda.
Yeah.
And I get a little of the proof in here too, a little bit.
Yeah, I would say cream soda is like a really good call. Like that's there's definitely there's that cream soda effect to it. But really, I guess slight like that briny.
You still get the sandalwood, but not as abrupt as the first one.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's much more of an oak or a wood note, I should say, on this.
And I get more like toasted dried coconut than sweet coconut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does smell like drier. Like it's not sweet. It's sweet, but not overly sweet.
It's to me, it's very dry on the palate with this huge lingering finish.
Oh.
Yeah, it is a little drier. But yeah, that thing has a finish and a half.
Yeah.
Again, flag on the play after the play's over.
Oh man, that's
unnecessary roughness.
Sounds like it's a Jets fan.
See, for me, that's
like story of my life. There's always a flag.
Yeah, three is up. Three is up for me. 3 is like a beautiful whiskey. Like that's a great whiskey right there. For me, in terms of like in my mind of like what I like, in whiskeys. Period. And that's great.
So they're all completely different. So you can actually
they really are.
how all these make up the the cask strength.
Man, just think if you knew a little bit about blending, what you could do with this.
I
Right?
know. Oh, Jesus. Dude, I'm just a blind squirrel trying to find a nut, man.
Damn.
Man, those are good. I mean, it's a really, I would say when we're tasting just American whiskeys, we often don't have like all of the ones that we have in front of us that we really enjoy for a lot. I mean, a lot of them are like, no good. Like just, put it aside. But man, these are all three so good and just very, very different.
Thanks,
One in three are probably more similar than one. Like one is just like, it's so different.
One and three are the most similar. I agree with you. One has the bigger mid palate, while three is more on the nose and the finish.
Yeah.
I always say like one is almost like a deep red wine.
And Jeff, you wanted to finish by tasting the signature. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to try the signature because the only difference between the signature and the cask strength is that it's just cut with water.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. So in your experience, what does adding water to a 100% Mizunara aged whiskey do to the whiskey?
Well, what it does, it makes it a little bit softer, but you almost actually lose some of the Mizunara characteristics.
Okay.
Like you start losing more of the sandalwood and more of the honey notes start appearing, and some of the sweeter notes start appearing when you add water to it. Well, I like the cask strength because I like the spice. I like the depth.
Yeah.
Man. These are
it's really tough. Like so Jason, like where are you leaning? Like where are you at with this? Because I mean
I want Jeffrey to personally blend all three for us.
Yeah, no problem.
He's never done that. He hates doing that.
I want him to go back to Jersey and go in his lab and just find the perfect concoction of all three of these for us.
He's probably doing that right now. Like
after tasting all of these, I'm gonna need a bottle and then a signed bottle. That's how it works.
You know what's so great about this dude? He will only give you 2 minutes.
Oh, he's gonna blend it.
He's got it.
Why not?
Yeah.
What did I tell you? He was already gonna blend.
Oh man.
Look at this. He's whipping out. Where's the Bunsen burner? Is that coming out next, Jeff?
Well, absolutely.
taking me back to science class right here.
Yeah.
It's always a science class when you're talking with Jeff about whiskey.
Man. So like Jason, so like of the three right now, like in terms of your ranking, like where are you at with these? I think
yeah,
I
give me your.
I'm a little torn on number one, but or in terms of
honestly I'm between 1 and 3. I mean two I really like. But again, as Jeffrey alluded to, it's more of a quintessential Japanese whiskey drinker's whiskey.
Yeah.
Even though it's tropical and very flavorful, it's also the softest. And, for our group, who's mainly bourbon drinkers, I don't think that one would resonate as heavily with them.
Do you feel 1 and 3 are a little bit more assertive?
Mm-hmm. I think, 1 and 3 are more assertive, but they're also the most flavorful as well. And, to me, I mean, 2 is flavorful, but in a more tropical way. But 1 and 3 both have a little bit of that going on with more heft and more like punch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and here's what I would say, like of 1 and 3, like I think for me, like I like, this is where I'm struggling because like 1 and 3, like Jason, like I think 3 has like the most like boldness. There's like spice. There's all of that. But on 1, there's that. It's just not as much. But I feel like if I, like me personally, like if I went to number 3, like 3 almost seems to be too much of an American whiskey for me, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know if I want an American whiskey if I'm drinking a Japanese whiskey, to be honest. You know?
Well, one has, or 3 is all nose and all finish, and the finish is just it just lingers and goes and goes.
See, but one not only has the heft on the palate and the darkness to it, but again, it's got that flag on the play.
Yep.
After you're done with it finished, it just kind of creeps up and it just lingers there.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'd rather take palate and finish over nose and finish.
Also, Jeff,
well, listen, I'm gonna write down the one that I would pick, but I'm not gonna show you.
Jeff, making a whole new blend the whole time we were talking.
It's actually exceptional.
All right. I think of course it is.
You know,
Of course, yeah, Jeff. Just like, guess what? Just like I'm not gonna actually sell you either of these. I'm gonna blend all three and come out with a special edition Kaiyo.
Yeah, 100 years old, but
yeah.
So what I did was, you can probably do it with your samples. So I basically did 60% of this. So of your number 2,
which is this. You got to tell us.
Okay, so 60% I did of $37.99.
Okay.
So if you can probably measure that out somehow. You don't have to be exact, right? So that's your base, and then I did equal parts of 1 and 3.
I mean, okay, so here's the thing. Before I even go through this process, if we did this, like, is this even like a possibility?
No, you can't buy it.
Okay, but I refuse to do it.
Hey, it doesn't hurt asking.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't.
One of my favorite memories of working for this entire company was Jeffrey Karlovitch taking a jug of 100-year-old Armagnac out of his car.
Oh my god!
And everyone thought was absolutely disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And then he blended it until it became the best thing that all of us had the whole night.
Oh.
And it's beautiful to watch Jeff blend something. It's beautiful.
Well, when you're a master at your craft and you can take something like that, I mean, that's the wonders of watching someone do their craft. And it's
I gotta tell you, Scott, I think I have my vote. Where are you leaning?
I gotta write down my vote. I gotta write down.
Okay. All right.
So if you write down your vote.
I gotta find
he's gonna go grab a 100-year-old jug of Armagnac. Don't let him do it.
I'm just scared that the one I want, there's not going to be a lot of bottles.
Oh boy.
Okay, so
Anyway, but
all right. So what was your favorite? So what? I shouldn't say what was your favorite. Like what's the one that you would pick? Like how do you do this? Like how do you?
All
Well, yeah, generally for Scott and I, it's we usually have like a third party that kind of helps us decide if we can't decide. But
Yeah.
I think for something like this, we generally can come to consensus because because we have a lot more trouble when they're a lot closer.
Yeah.
These are very far apart and they're very different, all along those lines. So I think this will be a little easier for me. As I just alluded to before, I think 1 is my pick, or should I say barrel 1108? Because
I would go 1, 3, 2.
Yeah, that's exactly my order. 1, 3, 2.
Yeah.
Jeffrey takes 1. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It honestly one.
Make it simple, Dad.
Well, one had like I think all of like what like 2 and 3 are kind of combined a little bit.
Yes.
Yes. It was
and there's also like a little bit more of a layer of a darker flavor to it.
Yeah.
And one thing that you have to actually think about too, if someone wants to drink this over ice, because it has such a big mid palate, it will hold up with ice better compared to 3.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because 3 has the punch and the brightness.
Yep.
But I don't think that's going to stand up over time. This will.
I think I think for a true Japanese whiskey that's out there, 2. Mm-hmm. But I think for that's interesting, 1 all day.
Yeah.
3.
3 for me was just a little bit like more like I'll say like normal. Like it's more normal from the standpoint of like what you get from like an American whiskey kind of profile. Like it was maybe too much. One was like the perfect balance of all of them. I
Yeah,
felt.
and you get, and I feel like you really get a good representation of Mizunara with number one. I want our patrons to be able to kind of taste that sweet, the savory, the salty, a little bit of that sandalwood, some of those dark fruits, and a little bit of that toasted coconut on number one. And you know, two was a lot more tropical, which we actually did an American single malt pick with Westland that was very tropical. I really didn't want to go down that lane again.
Yeah.
And three tasted more like a younger, I don't know, just came off like a younger whiskey overall, which it is.
And it is a younger whiskey. It is a younger whiskey, just a heavier char.
Yeah.
So
but even
you're actually
even
pulling different sugars out. So
yeah, even at 8.5 years old, I mean that's not that young considering the time. But
when you start talking about char level, or you're looking for different flavor profiles. It was like, so I'm doing heavier char because I want more finish and I want more nose. So I'm doing a lighter char because I want more body. So everything goes back to the char of the barrel and how it's manipulated.
And
for
that
the
is
flavor profile that you're looking for your end product.
That is just a friggin' delicious whiskey, man.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's just I mean, I would love to have that with like a steak right there. Yeah. I mean, I would love to just have that with, you know.
So Jeff, real quick, for $55.99.
Yep.
I'm sorry, 1108. It's the one we're going with. This is a 2.5 char, correct?
It's a 2.5 char.
No
toast.
No toast.
No toast.
100%.
100% Mizunara. Hasn't touched any other oak besides Mizunara.
And what's the age? What's the age
of this? It's 10 years old.
Woo! All right, there you go.
Shabby.
Man, this is like the SF Minnow. It's like a 3-hour tour.
Yeah. I told you it's a 3-hour tour. It's a 3-month sea voyage. 3 hours.
Yeah.
Jeff, we're gonna finish up tasting with this bad girl.
Yeah. So we'll finish up tasting with the signature. Now we've been drinking cask strength all day long. So but we'll talk about the signature. The signature. It was the girl that brought us to the dance. You know, it was voted for top 14 whiskey in the world by Whiskey Advocate, which was huge for our brand, and we want to thank them a great deal for giving us that accolade. But it's the quintessential of what Kaiyo is, and it's all about balance and harmony, and that's what our signature really is.
I'll tell you what, that does not smell like a 43% whiskey at all. Like it's rich.
It's rich, and that has to do with the different barrels that I chose and the different char levels. So, but this one tastes more like, I hate to say this, like waffles and syrup.
Oh yeah, now you're speaking Canadian.
I love that.
You're speaking Canadian.
Lay off my ego.
Oh yeah. I could see maple syrup. Man, maple syrup. Where the hell did the maple syrup come from in this whiskey?
Yeah, that's really crazy. That's not something I got on any of the other things. But
when
like
you add the water to it, those notes start coming out.
Yeah.
So it's like maple syrup. It's like breakfast in a glass.
Oh man.
Wait, Jeff, is that why I can wake up and drink this?
Well, it's good with your cornflakes.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying.
All right. I'm gonna buy some cornflakes tomorrow.
Yeah.
Screw cornflakes. I'm pouring this on my waffles.
That's rich. I mean, I don't think you'd ever find like that kind of richness, like, you know, for I'll say 86 proof, like bourbon, you would never find like this kind of like richness or like profile on something like that.
So when I'm doing the blend for a signature, even though I always say the cask strength is the same as the signature, just add with water. It is because of the barrels that we choose, but the blend is different in terms of the barrels. You know, the barrels are all the same, but I'm taking different characteristics out. So when I'm looking for this, I'm looking for more of a number one barrel that you selected.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But I'm also going heavy on barrel number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I can totally see that.
Yeah, you would want that dense flavors and dropping in some of that tropical, those notes too.
Yeah,
like that perfect, that little bit of both. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I mean, you do get like a nice, like juicy fruit bubble gum. There's something about that you really pick up that nice sweetness from this one.
Yeah,
that's really good. But man, I'm in love with 1108. I'm gonna take this.
That's 1108, and normally it's always like the second and third one. But as soon as I tried that one, I'm like, how do I tell them I don't? This is the one.
Yeah, it's a really. I mean, it's the one I drink the most of, you know. So I mean, that's always a good sign.
I drank the entire glass and filled it twice before we went on to the next whiskey. So I'm like, okay.
Well, at least you didn't take it from us. I mean, I do appreciate that.
No. Not yet.
No, not yet. we don't even have it yet, so it's still time to.
Let me real quick before we forget. I do want to, if he's watching, I do want to thank Shem over at Keg and Bottle and Tony at Keg and Bottle for setting up this opportunity for us. Obviously, Adam working with Keg and Bottle as well, because this is something that came across our email, and we were like, man, Japanese whiskey. We never thought in a million years we'd maybe get to do one of these. Yeah. And once we kind of did our research on Kaiyo and saw the different types of whiskeys that were coming out, and the fact that we'd be able to do a cask strength variant of this, a pick for our members at a really nice proof point. I mean, Scott and I were like, I mean, if anything, it's just good for us, you know, for educational purposes.
Absolutely.
But not only that, but we got a hitter of a barrel. That's friggin' delicious.
Well, I mean, I think next time, like when you're in Japan, we probably should go there just for educational purposes.
I think educational purposes. Yeah. I think that is a wonderful idea.
Yeah. See.
Yeah. I just want to climb. Am I allowed to climb a Mizunara tree? I just want to climb one. No.
Climbing a Mizunara tree is actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
Because of how it grows. So there's so many branches to actually go on.
I love it.
So climbing one is pretty cool.
I'm going to take this sample.
You kind of need one that's a little bit more not in the forest.
Yeah.
That's more out on the open. Because the branches really kind of grow quirky, like they'll even grow right to the ground and then go up.
Yeah, I just want
to go to Japan to watch this jabroni climb a freaking Mizunara tree.
Why not?
And you know what? I'm gonna be up that tree. I'm gonna be up that tree with this sample, sipping the shit out of it.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, thank you so much to the Mash and Drum. LHK is very grateful. Very grateful to Shem and to my really good buddy Tony Kanja. But it's so rare to have a living legend like Jeffrey Karlovitch to be able to talk about whiskey and Mizunara maturation. He's very humble, but he's actually the worldwide leader in Mizunara maturation and ocean maturation. So it's really rad to have him around.
Yeah. We do it. We appreciate you taking the time. We know you don't have to do this, and we appreciate the education.
No, listen,
of that. So.
The day I stop doing this is the day I need to hang up my cleats. Because then I don't. I always say it's about the people you meet and the journey and the ride along the way. And
it's kind of like it's almost
exciting.
It's almost kind of like it's about the journey, not the destination.
Totally. I never want to land.
All right, so guys, so just for purposes of just knowing our group, because they're going to ask the question, what are we looking at on a bottle yield on a barrel this old? What are we thinking?
So right now you're looking around. Actually, that's above my pay grade. Adam probably knows that better than I do because he has the sheet. So I think you're looking probably around anywhere from 17 to 20 6-pack cases.
So about like 50 to 60 bottles.
50 to 60 bottles?
Yes.
Total. Yeah.
Of the one you picked.
Yeah. I'm not kidding.
Oh my God. We were just talking the other day, like with another brand, and we got one that was 36 bottles. We're like, what are we going to do with all these short barrels? We just keep constantly.
Well, this is what happens when you got a living legend making the coolest Japanese whiskey out there, man.
So,
man.
Well, can the living legend make some more whiskey for us?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I've been telling him.
So I will tell you, so this barrel has a sister barrel.
Oh,
a sister barrel.
It has a sister barrel.
Yeah.
That's very similar to this. So that is available as well.
And would it yield about the same roughly?
It would yield about the same.
This is what I love and hate about working with this guy, because he has a surprise every single time in his back pocket.
So that gives us, I mean, just over, if we had 2 barrels, that gives us.
If you had 2 barrels, and they're when I tell you they're extremely similar, and I was gonna have both of them, but I thought they were so similar, because they're sister barrels, and everything about them is exactly the same, and they were next to each other.
I don't know if it would work. I mean, Adam, you could work this out with Shem if there's a way to get both of those for the group, because we have over 1,000 people in our group.
Yeah.
So I mean, we
sold already.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like they're already gone. So
yeah. So what I can do is I can when we get offline, I can look at that sister barrel and make sure that that it's not spoken for, which I don't think it is, because I was actually holding it for myself.
Great. Now we're taking Jeff's barrels.
But listen, I want everybody to be happy.
Yeah. We're even with 2 barrels, we don't make everybody happy, unfortunately. But
yeah,
but I will say this. I think
we will still be exceptionally small, but
we have
we can make it available.
Obviously, what we had said, we have less of a we have more bourbon drinkers, and when we did the Westland single malt, they did sit for a while because I think people were a little bit more hesitant to buy an American single malt, whereas this, we're not really sure what it's going to be, but at least to have over 100 bottles of a pick like this to be a Japanese whiskey, I know that there's at least 100 some people in our group that are going to want to grab this one because it's that good. So
yeah.
And I will tell you earlier. So it's like the sister barrel. When I saw this pick, when the barrel that you had, I'm like, oh shit. And then, excuse my language. And then I was excited about it. But I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go back to my samples for the other barrel, which got me really excited. But I'd be more than happy to share it because it's about the journey. So
yeah, I mean,
that's something you're interested in.
It'd be great. I mean, it'd be great to be able to share a few more bottles with people.
Yeah, and you'd have a very hard time discerning the difference.
Jeffrey, what are the price point usually on these? Where do they land about?
That's more for Adam than me.
I think they would on the shelf they'd be about 115, 120.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That's not bad for a
no, I mean you're talking about a 10. I mean, it's still a 10-year
10-year
Japanese whiskey. I mean, Hibiki still sells theirs for like over 150, 160, and
we're not Hibiki yet.
Well, this seems like, honestly, this is like getting in on the ground floor. Like you're getting a great value for a great whiskey, so.
And one of the things that's kind of unique about Kaiyo, that's kind of this craze. All of a sudden, it's been like some of our first edition whiskeys that we've done on the secondary market have gone kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting on that point of view as well.
Yeah.
I always say, that's why I said, I'll sign one, and then you have to buy. If I'm going to sign it, you need to buy 2 because I want you to drink it.
Well, we're gonna need those from you. I need one to drink and one for the Yoda to sign.
Absolutely, you're more than happy to.
Yeah, and all I want, Jeffrey, all I want you to do is sign mine with a hashtag LFGM. Let's fucking go Mets.
No, you got it.
That's all you got. That's all you got to sign up on.
And I want for you.
Being a Met fan, the only saving grace was actually the Jets, because you were so distraught after the Mets, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, the Jets, they're actually winning.
I'm gonna have a Padres.
All right. So if you're doing that, then I need one that says LFG Dolphins. Can you do that for me?
He's a Jets fan. He's gonna
squish the fish. Squish the fish?
No. I don't think so.
Dude, Hawk, you should take a squish the fish. That'd be amazing.
No, I don't. I can't do that.
Absolutely not.
Oh, jeez. I mean,
I'll figure something out.
As far as like the Padres and stuff goes, I mean, like 99% of the country doesn't even get to watch like any West Coast baseball, so we don't even know the Padres even have a baseball team.
Yeah, well,
very true. Very true.
All right, guys. Well, real quick, thanks to Adam. Thanks for Jeffrey. Thanks for just the complete, Jeffrey. Thanks for the complete brain dump of information we got tonight. That was
do
awesome.
apologize. It's the only time I feel smart, man. I always say
No,
I'm
no,
Polish and Scottish, so I'm a dumb
Well,
junk.
we don't know, we don't know enough about Mizunara cask, so this was like a complete, just an awesome education, from that
Absolutely.
standpoint. But
and thank you guys so much for inviting us, because really, Jeff literally is the worldwide leader in Mizunara maturation, and it's so rare for us to have the opportunity to talk with people.
I love this, and thank you so much. And listen, I hope this is not my last time on your show.
No, it won't be.
Hey, Jeff, as long as you keep blending them, we'll keep trying them, man.
All right, and maybe next time we do a blend.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
Like I'll send you a whole kit, and we'll do a blend for the guests.
Oh, that'd be an honor if we could do a blend or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be an absolute honor to do that. That'd be really crazy. Yep.
Yeah,
sure.
I'll get a bunch of different casks that we have, and then we can come up with the ratios and kind of make it fun.
Absolutely.
This is the great thing about having the guy who controls the liquid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, guys. Well, thanks for everything. So everybody online right now, you guys hold tight. Everybody in the chat, everyone watching the replay, all of our patrons, thank you guys so much for all of the support. We're super excited to be able to bring you barrel number 1108. It's a incredible Japanese whiskey. Jeffrey, Adam, guys, thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. So it's something we're excited to bring to the club, and just another example of doing something fun and different, unique, still delicious, and all of that. So everybody, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys.